Hey you guys, it's Peter, and welcome to my channel, Peterisms, where I tell stories of my life and just little things that I've learned as I have grown into the person that I am today. And I wanted to talk about something that happened to me last night. It's not so much of a story time because it's really like a 10-second story, which would be boring, but it got me kind of thinking. And you know, I am always thinking. I am like too much in my head. Are you one of those people that you are way too much in your head? You know, like you're watching a Netflix show and all of a sudden it's like they say something and then your mind like and then you have to like rewind it. Or you're like listening to a song and there's like some line in it and you're like, oh God, I forgot about that one time when I was, oh yeah, I did it. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, the song's over, right? So that's kind of how my mind works. I'm like all over the place. You know, I've talked about having adult ADHD. I have had some kind of attention deficit hyperactive disorder or attention deficit disorder my entire life. And so I've just been very easily distracted, and that's who I am. But it has become an asset for me, and I've learned how to multitask and use it as an asset as I've gotten older. And sometimes I come up with some kind of interesting thoughts. And so last night, I was sitting around and I was making dinner, and I was in the kitchen and I was firing up some vegetarian chicken nuggets by Morningstar. Not sponsored. I wish I was though. And you're supposed to put the chicken nuggets like I think it's 4 or 5 on a plate for 1:40, right? And so I put them in there and I was standing there and I was just like, dun, dun, dun. I mean, everything else was ready and I was just kind of like, dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. And I was sitting there, I was like looking at the timer, like count down. And somehow I started thinking, for some reason, okay, about like the power of a minute. And like really, you know, like how much a minute really means. Like what is the value of a minute? And I was thinking about, you know, like there are 60 seconds in a minute. I do not have my glasses on. I can't do math. 60 seconds in a minute, 60 minutes in an hour, and 24 hours in a day, right? So that's a lot of minutes, but how many of those do we waste, you know? How many of those do we just sit here? And like, I think that one of the things for me that I've really tried to do a lot better at in, let's say, the last 3 to 6 months is get off this thing. I think that we have become a generation or a society that is constantly on our cell phones. And I actually have several friends of mine that have completely eliminated all forms of social media. They aren't on, you know, Facebook, they aren't on Instagram, they aren't on Twitter, they aren't on any of it. And, you know, it's interesting because I love social media and my husband loves social media. But I think that we have become this, you know, society where our go-to is always our phones. Like, check the Twitter, check the Instagram, constantly being on there, you know? And one of the things is that, like, at night, when Alex and I are in bed, we'll, like, lay there and we'll talk, and we'll, like, you know, how was your day? It was good. And, like, you know, what's your plan for the week? And we'll talk about, like, what our plans are and what we're doing. And, oh, this trip we planned, we're so excited about it, and the dogs, and on and on and on, right? It's kind of like our check-in hour, so to speak. But I've noticed that a lot of the time, we're sitting there and we're rolling through our phones while we're doing it. And then he'll show me like a meme, you know, that he sees. He loves the funny memes on Instagram. Or I'll be like, oh my God, did you hear this? And it'll be like some news thing that comes out on Twitter or whatever. And I think like that has been a default setting for me in my life and so many people that I know, right? And it seems to me that when I go out to dinner, not just with my husband, because we've been working on this, and I'm going to actually talk about that in a second, but even with groups of people, there are so many people at the table that are on their phones. So if there's like 3 of us as couples, there's always at any given time 2 or 3 people that are on their phones. And my friend Melissa, like her husband is very rarely ever on his phone unless he's looking up something on Google. And we'll be sitting there at dinner and he'll be like, you guys, come on, put your phones down, right? And so we, you know, Alex and Melissa and I kind of put our phones down. And I don't think there's anything wrong with liking social media. I don't think there's anything, you know, negative about that. I think that we can enjoy social media until it starts taking away from other things in our lives, other moments, other minutes of our lives, if that means, you know, if that makes any sense. And one of the things that Alex and I have been working a lot on in like our marriage counseling sessions when we talk about dating, because a lot of people ask, how do you keep the passion alive in a marriage? Well, I think it's a very good question, actually. And I think a lot of times people think that that's just a sexual or an intimate question. But really, you know, I think my years of experiences is it's hard to get hot and heavy in the bedroom or the hotel or wherever you are if you're not having romance on a daily basis at dinner, on a date, coming home from work, those kinds of things. So for us, it's really important to keep the passion and the romance alive all the time. And one of the ways that we do that is by going on dates. And we had to come up with some very strict boundaries for what that means. So, for example, most of you know Alex and I do not cook. Like, we rarely ever cook, right? Recently, we've been going to the grocery store a lot and bringing stuff home, but we rarely ever cook. And so for us, we go out to dinner almost on a regular basis. And here it is, okay, for all the people out there that are like, you should cook, you'd save money, blah, 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 whatever. We enjoy going out to dinner. It's an hour and a half set aside where we can sit there and order food that we like and be able to have a connected conversation. But what happens a lot of times is when his day is done and my day is done and we're like, okay, let's go meet here or let's go meet there for dinner, that we're on our phones because it doesn't feel so much like a romantic date. Whereas, instead, it'll be like, okay, he'll say, on Saturday night, I want to take you out somewhere nice, and then we're going to go to, like, Dance Kaleidoscope, which is, like, this dancing in Indianapolis. Or I'll say, okay, well, I want to take you out, to brunch, and then we're going to go to the zoo. Those are, like, explicitly romantic dates. On those moments, we have defined that we don't want any phones, okay? Phones don't leave the car in those moments. And we've really had to train ourselves to remember that 20 years ago, people didn't have cell phones. So you can go to brunch and you can go to the zoo and life will continue to go on. And if somebody gets sick and goes to the hospital or whatever, you'll find out about it when you get to the car. And I know that kind of sounds ruthless, but it's how people lived 20 years ago. So it's how a lot of people live today. There are people that don't have cell phones. I know a few of them. And so we've really had to train ourselves that way, and honest to God, like on our dates, nothing dramatic has happened for the hour and a half that we're like at brunch or at the zoo. It hasn't happened. So for us, it's really important for us to leave our phones in the car and just detach, and it's a way for us to connect. I don't know if you've ever been on a date with your partner or your boyfriend or whoever or somebody brand new and you feel like there's 3 of you on the date or 4 of you. It's you, them, and the phones. Does that make sense? Like a lot of us, I think, feel that way. And last night, when I was sitting there and I was waiting for, my chicken nuggets in the microwave, I like instantly at the end of it picked up my phone and I got right on Instagram and I was like, why not pick up a book, Like, why not, like, clean up the area that you're doing? Why not do something different? Like, all these minutes that I waste on social media. And one of the things that I talked to my counselor about is that, like, whenever somebody says to me, I got rid of all of my social media accounts, although I will not do that because I love social media, as corny as that sounds, I just really do, and I'll own it. It's my truth. It makes me, I don't know, feel attached to the world, and I like to look at other people's pictures and see what people have to say. I enjoy it. It's fun. There's something about that when somebody says it to me, though, that they say, like, it's like when somebody says, I don't have a TV, and I think to myself, I can't imagine not having a TV, but then the other part of me is thinking to myself, wow, they just must read all the time and they're constantly out and they're not like, their life isn't dictated by TV. And a lot of times I feel like my life is dictated by TV shows, even though I love them, right? So I don't want to get rid of my TV and I don't want to get rid of social media. But there is something about it when people say those things that is attractive to me. There's something attractive to me when people say, oh, I got rid of all my social media, or I don't have a television in my house. I don't know what it is, and I can't necessarily pinpoint it, but there's something attractive about that. And so I've been working on that with my marriage counselor when I go in for individual sessions about setting boundaries and limits with my social media. And for anybody that follows me, you'll notice that recently there will be long hours where I am not on social media at all. And so kind of what I do is I get up in the morning, and people want to know, so I'm going to tell you, what do you do? So I get up in the morning, and before I even get on any forms of social media or look at anything, I don't look at numbers on videos, I don't look at tweets, I don't look at, messages, and part of the problem with this is that it's really like kept me from answering as many messages as I want to. So I try to go in every day and do some of that because I want to try to respond to people. But one of the things I've done is this, is that I get up in the morning and I come downstairs, I let the dogs out, I give pee-pee as medicine, I make a cup of tea or have a glass of water, and I sit down and I do my prayers and meditations, which I've talked a lot about on here, and I try to get myself centered for the day. And usually whatever the meditation is for the day is kind of my thought going forward. I focus on, okay, today I'm going to use my pause button, or today I'm going to like do something nice for somebody else and live out of kindness and compassion. And I try to kind of think about who I want to be for that day. And then and only then do I pick up my phone once I'm prepared and I am centered for the day and I go forward. I can't tell you how many times I have woken up, turned off my alarm and grabbed my phone and gone like this. I'm like, ugh. And I have like 6 text messages that I have to respond to. And there's like stuff that's come up and it's like, I'm not prepared for it. I'm not emotionally and mentally prepared for it. So today I don't get on my phone until I am emotionally and mentally centered for the day. That's the first thing I do. Then after I check it, you know, I like go and I run my errands, I get coffee and, you know, like drive around, listen to music. If I go into my office, I go into my office. But I have like a 4-hour span where I typically, 4 or 5, where I typically do the things I have to do, whether it's writing my book or, you know, like going and running errands or whatever. And in those 4 or 5 hours, I typically don't get on social media. And then that takes me to about, you know, like 2, 3 in the afternoon, and I'm like leaving my office from writing or, you know, like done with my errands, and I'll allow myself like 20 minutes or 30 minutes to sit down and, you know, really go through the social media that I enjoy. Like I'll look at Twitter, I'll sometimes post a picture, things like that. And then I allow myself, and this sounds so corny, I know it does, okay? But if you're like me and you constantly are going to your phone, if you counted in one day how many times you picked up your phone, and maybe I need to do this. Maybe I'll do this tomorrow. Maybe I'll count how many times I really do pick up my phone, because I think it would be a good measure to see like how many times is your default really going to your phone. And it's hard, you know, when you have kids and you're married and you've got parents that are, you know, sick, or family members that are sick, and you have to like be kind of connected to your phone. It's one thing to check that. It's another thing to get on the social media. And so throughout the day, there's only about 4 times anymore that I get on social media. And I've, you know, worked with my counselor on those being moments where I detach. And I do things that Peter likes to do, like listen to music, or, you know, like stand outside with my dogs, or read. And since I've started doing this, I've started reading a lot more. I've started, you know, like really detaching from the whole rest of the world of social media. And it's really made me value the length of a minute. And last night, sitting there, while that minute went around in a microwave, I thought, my God, this is the longest minute in the entire world. But then after that, and after I was thinking about all this kind of stuff, I was thinking to myself, if I really put that much value into every minute of my day, you know, whether it's like, you know, me waiting for the shower to go from cold to warm, and I'm sitting there, you know, if I just, instead of like picking up my phone a lot of times, which I do in the, you know, the bedroom, if I like just lay down with the dogs and just kind of talk to the dogs for a little bit, or picked up a book and read a page, you know, or I don't know, just kind of like centered myself and thought about all the good things and kind of went through my gratitude list in my head, what would my life look like differently? How would it look differently instead of me being so connected into social media? A lot of great things have come to my life as a result of social media. A lot of negative things have come to my life as a result of social media too, and a lot of negative things have come to a lot of people. And I think one of the things is that we feel like we have to constantly be buzzed into the moment of what is happening, instead of staying centered in the moment of our now and who we are as people. And I think sometimes we lose ourselves to all of that. So I just wanted to talk about that because it's something that I've been working on recently, you know, is to just not be so programmed in and to have it be something that I go to for enjoyment instead of something that I feel a necessity and a drive that I have to go to. So leave in the comment section below what you guys do. Are there any of you out there that have completely gotten rid of social media? And, you know, like what's that like for you? Let me know how you deal with this, or if you've never thought of it, or if you've been tempted to, because, you know, the thing is that for me, with posting videos and doing that kind of stuff, it would be almost impossible for me to like just not get on social media at all for a week. I could do it, right? Like I could, but, you know, I think I don't know, could I? But I mean, like, as far as like people finding out about videos and all that kind of stuff, a lot of that is me posting on social media. But I would be willing to try that at some time because I think like it would be so interesting to just like cleanse yourself of all of that for a week and just stay detached, you know? I don't know. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. I love you guys. I hope you're having a fantastic week, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.